Hello and welcome back. Today we're continuing our summer journey. And so I had promised a bonus oil and kind of teased a bonus oil from our full summer protocol series. And so this is that continuation of that series. And so even if you haven't had a chance to go back and watch our longer summer episode, it's completely okay. There are some really great companion points and oils that will enhance this, but also this particular oil that we're going to dive into today does a really wonderful job on its own. And I'm going to share a few just stories with you from a botanical sense or more of an herbal lens, as well as an aromatherapy lens of how this particular oil has really, as its name hints, the reviver, but how it has helped revive me again and again. So my name is Jessie Raspiller, and I'm a somatic herbalist. My greatest passion in this world is helping individuals find a natural balance in this modern world. I find that through the practices and the plants that I offer, it begins to really orient all of us back into sort of more of this natural state of being that our ancestors knew and that we've kind of forgotten, but that we've also stepped into this modern world and we're trying to find that balancing point. And that to me is exactly what this oil does for us. So today, and I have to just laugh because I can't even show you the label on this one because it is a well-loved oil, not only in my treatments, but in my home self-help care practices, but this is rosemary. And I think at some point in most of our adult lives, we've probably had some relationship or association with rosemary. Maybe it was simmering some rosemary in a butter sauce before we, poured it on a meal. Or maybe it's just the waft of the rosemary as we go for a walk each day. And there's medicine in all of those ways of receiving rosemary. For me, the first time, I've cooked with rosemary for years, but when I really started looking at the traditional medicinal energetics of rosemary, it was when I was in herbalism school, and I had heard when we were ironically studying aromatherapy before I was a clinical aromatherapist, but one of my teachers had mentioned how just smelling a sprig of rosemary or a drop of rosemary essential oil has the ability to bring us into focus. And so for long study days or long fringed energy days, rosemary is really a companion to us on so many different levels. And for me, when I work with rosemary in treatments, I typically, I guess I should say again, being that this is part of our summer protocol, and I was just mirroring this to a client that was in here, I shared with her how both bergamot on Shen Men, which is almost always my starting point oil, and if that's a new one for you, you can just even watch the first oil on the summer protocol, and it pairs really, really beautifully with rosemary. But what I tend to tell clients, especially in their first session, is bergamot is this really beautiful balancer, and I go into more depth on the previous video, but it kind of brings all that fringe energy, those strings attached of all the things that came before, all the things that are going to come after that moment, and it helps to just bring us into a place of harmony and a little bit of balance in our body, our mind, and our spirit. And then once we have that, we may even call that like a nervous system support, right? What rosemary does, and we're going to place this on our crown, it has this ability to help us navigate that center point. So if bergamot and Shen Men bring us in, then rosemary has this really beautiful way of helping us to maintain our sense of center. And my second or third favorite story with rosemary and the way that it works on our body, just to paint a picture, a few months ago, or this spring I guess I should say, I was at a trade show up in Ojai on a beautiful property that's covered with rosemary, and I did a little bit of a scent test with people. There's always this challenge to want to inspire individuals to come to a booth, but when you're in a situation and unknown resources, you may want to walk by. So I just asked individuals, I was like, would you want to guess the scent that I have? Thinking in my head that rosemary would be a pretty familiar scent for most of us. And so many people came over. They were excited to kind of play the game that I was offering. And the interesting part of this, and this is where the energetics of plants are just so amazing, of meeting us where we are. Rather than saying I'm going to go to a specific symptom and do one thing to that symptom, either turn it up or turn it down. Plant botanicals have this way of meeting us where we are and tuning the edges and the fringe energy to what we most need at that time. And so the story goes that 49% of the individuals that smelled rosemary guessed that it was lavender, and 49% of the individuals guessed that it was eucalyptus. When we think about those smells without having them in front of us, we kind of consider those pretty opposite ends of the spectrum, which brings my case study that I just shared home. One person guessed that it was rosemary. And what that tells me from both an energetics as well as an herbalism lens is that rosemary gives you what you need. If you're feeling a little bit strung out, it's going to give you that calming, cooling effect of lavender. If you're feeling a little bit more couch potato-y and kind of introverted, it's going to give you that uprising of eucalyptus. And it's going to just kind of fine-tune all of the edges so that you, again, find that beautiful optimal balance within that sense of self. So again, bergamot brings everything in. Rosemary keeps that calibration in the center. So if this sounds really unique to you and you want to experience the rosemary, if you have your rosemary oil, or honestly, if you have a sprig of rosemary, just for the sake of moving through this practice with me, go ahead and grab those now. We're going to bring rosemary in a moment. Let me show you what point we're going to do with rosemary. My teacher of this method shared, so we're going to come to DU12 up here, or 20 up here on the crown of the head. This is a really good for kind of the fringe of our network. So again, let's just call it nervous system for a very superficial experience. But it's really good for brain matter and kind of recentering all of those networks of energy, let's say that. So the best thing to do is on both sides of the ear, find the tip of the ear, place your thumbs there. This is just kind of be a guide. And then wherever that center point is that your finger touches, that's going to be your point. And so once you have that, let's go ahead and grab just one drop. And again, always leaning towards a diluted essential oil. So if you don't have diluted rosemary, go ahead and just also grab a carrier oil. I think I'm at the bottom of this oil. But we'll grab our rosemary. And then when you're ready, again, just using really light touch at that point. Just letting the aroma find you. Maybe noticing first what you notice about the scent. Now that I clued you into the duality of rosemary, do you smell rosemary? Or do you smell some of those fringe energies, those fringe smells that have familiar relationships, maybe in our scent memory, of how they support and how they engage with us? Once you notice that scent, just bring your awareness to this point. Again, gentle touch, just letting the plant be the conduit here. Just taking a few moments to celebrate the experience that can be had. Notice a shift, just allowing the hands to fall down, maybe taking an inhalation of rosemary. If you need a little bit longer, staying with that point.